And so, my question to you is, what are some of the resistors from the learner's standpoint that you have seen? Because I think this is one of them, right? One of the resistance is their current paradigm of what learning is. And then Gustavo's coming in with his, hey, I care about you kind of leadership style. We're going to offer this learning program that's going to be about you and focused on you. And people are like, what are some of the other resistors that you've seen with this kind of approach from the learner's perspective?
That is a great question. The first resistor is, like you said, how they've been trained to quote unquote learn, which isn't really learning, is what do I need to do to pass the test? And in this case, the test would be doing okay at my job or being able to get a paycheck, right? So what do I need to be able to spit back out to you as my boss or my leader? That you want to know. And even I made that mistake when we first started, before we worked with making those exams or practicals and making it, hey, tell this back to me, right? And it doesn't really do much. And that's why we hired you, right? Like we know we need to improve these things. But yeah, that is one of the main resistors first, which is how people are used to taking in information and learning. It's very rare that people are coming into jobs with great learning experiences from other jobs. And the other resistors being the effort or the time it takes, right? Because a lot of times people are going into a new job, they want to start doing that job, right? And they might have prior experiences doing that job, but now you're in a different organization with different core values or mission statement. So you need to be able to adapt how you're doing that job to the new organization. And I think a lot of times in whatever field, but mostly in like things that require some level of critical thinking, like we call it the arts, right, Jason? We talk about that. It's like personal training could be an art, right? There's all these things that you have to think about, that it's not just a standard checklist. And a lot of our jobs are like that now, right? Because the computers can do the other jobs. But they're coming into this with already their preconceived way of doing that art, whether that's learning design, whether that's marketing or personal training, whatever it is. So that is a big resistor, right? Because they're like, well, I've always done it this way. And so that, I'm sure everyone listening is like, yes, I've heard that a lot, right? And so we have to figure out, instead of giving that response of, oh, well, you've done it this way, but now you're working here and we're paying you, so you're going to do it this way. That's not really going to help, and having some level of reward or punishment for doing it right or not doesn't really get someone to learn in the long term, right? And actually wrap that into how they were doing things before. So that is, those two big resistors, right? Or really three, right? So is it going to be on the test, and what I just said, which is, okay, well, I've done it this way for so long, right? So those two big ones, I think, are something for leaders to focus on, whether they're developing learning courses right now or they're just mentoring their people with what they got. I think you can do it either way.
Yeah, and I think, legacy learning, we talk a lot about outcomes and how important that is. It's one of the things we worked with you on. And I think when you establish those outcomes, which are the behaviors we want our learners to be able to do, that allows the leadership style that you're talking about to happen. Because all your conversations then are about, even if their paradigm is, I got to pass the test. Well, the test is to do these behaviors, right? So even in those kind of failed learning approaches, or their paradigm is that, then if we started with outcomes, and as a leader, if you start to think about it from the lens of outcomes, you can overcome that resistance. But I'm curious too, so I know you've seen a lot of resistance, and you kind of take that, one of the things that I think we did is a good job of creating a comprehensive onboarding program for you all, and then you're taking it into the real world and actually trying to implement. And you've probably had to adjust some of your leadership approaches in order to make that successful. So do you have any suggestions for leaders, how they can support learning and development and actually drive change within their organization?
Oh, that is a great question. To support, not just learning and development from like a structured course, right? But just to support learning in general is really key for your organization to move forward, right? Because if you're training your staff to just learn when you give them information, then again, going back to the art of whatever they're doing, because most of the time it is that, they're going to come to you anytime they need an answer, instead of understanding that they can learn things on their own and problem solve, right? I mean, that's what we get paid for, it hopefully, is to be able to think higher than just pushing a button. So that I think is the part that we're missing, is like this gap of, okay, we want to do learning and development courses or live sessions, whatever. We're going to create all this stuff for our people, and that's what they need to learn. But they also need to learn how to learn. I know that sounds funny, but that is something that as a leader, if you miss out on that, you're going to have to continue to work at building more courses over time, right? Continuing to make sure that they're learning these courses, and then spending most of your time doing that in the future, especially as an organization grows. But if you can have, let's say, half of your organization or a majority of them starting to enjoy seeking out information for whatever their job is, then they're going to do that stuff on their own. And eventually, ideally, they bring stuff to you. And that is the cool thing about where we are now, is all of our trainers have gotten to that point where they're bringing information up to us about a discovery that they've made, right? Or a case study that they have from a client, because of the way that we've put out there that learning is more than studying for a test, right? And it's a fun thing, because as you know, like when we grow up, like we like to learn. It gets undone, which we won't get into, but we like to learn. So if we can bring that back for someone who really has put themselves out there in the workforce, they're working in a job that they sort of enjoy, then they should enjoy learning about that job or how to be better in general as a person. So if you guys as leaders, the listeners, if you can stoke that fire of, okay, what is a little bit of information that they can go out and learn on their own, and you can praise them for it, you can hype them up about it, you can have them share it with the rest of the team and have them realize, like, okay, this is really how I move forward and how I move my team or the organization forward. And that feels good for everyone. Like I said at the beginning, everyone wants to feel good and everyone wants to do good. But if you don't give them the right tools to do that, they don't know how to do that. So then they just go back to their own old ways, right? Yeah. So that's my main focus for you all, is get them to enjoy learning first.
Yeah, and Gustavo didn't get into the part he said we're not going to get into, is because he knows it triggers me, and then I would talk for the next 2 hours about how we are often, leaders and learning professionals, are creating learning experiences that do the opposite of what we want it to do, which is we want people to get excited about it, have fun with it, and tap in the natural way that people learn. And instead, we create these rigid things, or tell people they're doing it wrong, or create other dynamics that make learning stressful and not fun. So definitely something we should get into, but Gustavo just did it because we have time constraints. He held back, so I appreciate that. Exactly, it's 5 episodes probably. But I think one of the things that you were talking about is creating a learning culture, right? That's kind of the catchphrase for what you just described. And leaders are so vital to that, right? If you are a lick it and stick it kind of a leader, that's your perspective on what learning and development is, then you're kind of wasting your money and time to even create a learning experience, because it's not how it is. That if you want change within your organization, get somebody like Legacy Learning or some other learning development company to come in and help you create it. And we can, and I'm sure others can too, help you strategize your leadership approach around it. And I think working with Gustavo, we didn't have to do a ton of that, because you just, not just you, but the whole Seriously Strong training, you guys have the philosophy of getting in there kind of in the trenches with the people that you work with. And I think that's why you have the information flowing both ways. So I think that you shared a lot of important insights into, as a leader, how can you support learning and development? And I think if I could sum it up, it sounds like the leader is part of the learning and development. They are instrumental in driving whatever learning and development approach you have. So I genuinely appreciate you being here. I wanted to thank you for offering your time, first of all, but also your thoughts and your insights into this, and look forward to future conversations.
Of course. It's been fun, Jason. Yeah.